These are the 10 retirement questions that most people are Googling or asking right now. Number 1, with interest rates still relatively high, am I being smart by leaving retirement money in CDs, treasury bills, and money market accounts, or am I creating a long-term growth problem by keeping too much money safe?
Well, you're not creating a long-term growth problem. You're basically eliminating the possibility for growth. If you look at the inflation rate compared to the 3.5, 3.75 you're getting out of the, I like to call them certificates of disappointment, because when you're done with that CD, guess what else you're liable for? The taxes on the gains. So you're never going to keep up with inflation. So my favorite phrase for that is you're growing broke safely. Now, does CDs have a place in portfolios? Absolutely. But it's an amount and a percentage of your retirement fund. And there's lots of people that are far, far, far overinvested in the safe money.
And I would add to that the money that you have in safe dollars, if it's a small percentage of what your overall portfolio percent is, fine. But if you're talking about you've got money that's in CDs and these safe instruments that you're planning on using in 20 years, I would say that's probably something you need to consider making some changes to, especially if you look at what the market is capable of, even in just the last. I mean, how much return did you lose in just the last 5 years?
Oh, exactly. I mean, in 20 years ago, I bought a brand new Camaro, $28,500 with the V8. Price that out now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your dollar isn't going to buy the same thing in 20 years.
That's a good point.
It's just not.
All right, that's a good point. Okay. If inflation is currently running around 3.5%, how much return do my investments need after taxes, fees, and withdrawals to maintain my current standard of living?
Yeah, and that's a complicated question, because if you have a well-diversified portfolio with enough equities in it, percentage-wise, you can take 4% out, still stay ahead of inflation. So that is the formula. And so what does that add up to? Over 7% average per year.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So that's an easy answer to a very deep question.
Yep. And if you're paying an advisory firm to help you with that, but they're not creating enough value, now you're talking, you need to probably be making 8.5%.
Yeah, you need to be making over 7% net.
Yeah.
After fees, after taxes, net.
There's your answer to that one. Holy moly. I own several mutual funds and S&P 500 funds. But am I truly diversified, or do I repeatedly own the same large technology and artificial intelligence companies?
Oh, my goodness. And we have a report for that. It's called the overlap report. And you will be shocked if you look at the average portfolio, the vast majority of portfolios. It's not just average. It's the vast majority. You're going to be heavily, heavily into U.S. large companies. Right now, because people think they're so smart, you're going to be heavily, heavily into the U.S. large tech companies.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody remember the tech crash of 2000?
Right.
When you lost 74% of your money virtually overnight?
Ouch.
Yeah. So when I pull a portfolio, even if it says the mutual fund is labeled U.S. small, there's going to be U.S. large in it.
Why does that happen?
Because, U.S. large is considered a safe-ish.
So they're just
and
trying
people
to
know the names. So they're pulling on name recognition. I own Tesla. Yeah, you probably own it 12 times. I mean, we have seen ridiculous amounts of overlap on a very regular basis.
Caleb and I use the analogy that it's like going through the grocery store when you're hungry without a shopping list.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're looking for stuff that you're familiar with, and you're like, oh, I'll take some of that. I'll take some of this. That looks good. You throw that in there. And by the time you get down to the back of the store, your basket's full of crap. You have no idea what's actually in there.
Oh.
And investing, I feel like people do the same thing.
Yep.
As far as the diversification issue, which is they see things that sound really, really good when they're looking like U.S. large growth, super awesome fund. And they're like, yeah, give me some of that. And they see one that's like the Admiral Superstar Best 5-Star Awesome Fund #2. And they're like, give me some of that.
Yep.
And we just had a client that we ran the evaluation on his stuff, $3.5 million.
Yep.
And he had, it must have been like 16 mutual funds in this thing.
Yep.
94% S&P 500.
Exactly.
All of it.
Exactly. Nobody did any work for true diversification. And the S&P 500, as we've touched on again and again, is one of the lowest net return asset categories you can buy.
Messy.
Yep.
Okay. Next question is, with investment valuations above historic norms, should I take some profits and rebalance, or would selling now simply be another attempt to time the market?
You should always rebalance. So a bare minimum quarterly. Quarterly is really the sweet spot for doing major rebalancing. You're going to be
It's like total portfolio rebalancing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Within the mutual funds, that's done daily, and that's the way you do it. You scrape profits. You're not trying to time the market. When something's up, that's when you take it. It's not timing the market. You're not trying to guess what the market's going to do tomorrow. You're like, wow, this is up 8%. I'm going to sell a little bit of it, scrape that profit off, so it goes back down to the percentage of that particular asset category that I want. So,
Just to be clear, what Caleb is saying is that's how our funds work.
right.
Like
Right.
if you are not here or you're picking your own funds, none of that's going to happen because the fund managers don't know each other, and rebalancing rarely happens in funds like that.
Yep. Usually when you own two mutual funds, one guy's buying the same thing, the other guy's selling. So you're just buying and selling from yourself in essence, and paying the bid-ask spread on both ends. Doesn't that sound
sounds fun? Yeah. Okay, next question. If I plan to retire within the next 5 years, how much of my money should be protected from short-term market losses, and how much still needs to pursue growth in the next 25 to 30 years?
Yeah, and that's not really a percentage. What I recommend to myself and to other people is have 1 to 2 years of income that you're going to need, bill money. Not going to lose the house, not going to lose the cars, going to keep your insurance payment up, food on the table. Have that amount of money safely invested. And that's where some of the CDs and stuff like that do play in. But no more than that. If you're planning on it growing, there's a risk return. If you're not taking a little bit of risk of some market losses, you're not going to get the growth long term.
I think a lot of people, if you're planning to retire in the next 5 years, where I feel like, let's say that you're 55 and you're saying when I'm 60, I'm out, right?
Yep.
Here's what people need to remember. Most investors, they don't even start investing until they're around 30, 35. They spend the first part of their 30s cleaning up the 20s. Their 20s, right?
Yeah, paying off their student loans. And
yeah, so they're saving for 30 years, and they feel like in their mind that's a long time, but they don't realize they might live another 30 years.
Yeah.
So your investing
or 40
experience needs to be, you need to be looking at 60 to 70 years of investing experience.
Yep.
Right? So because you're 60, 65 years old, that doesn't mean that the investing cycle stops.
It's irrelevant. Yeah.
It might look a little different, but you might live another 30 years.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. This is a good one. What happens if the market falls significantly during my first 2 years of retirement? Do I have an income plan that prevents me from selling investments after they have already declined? And the problem with this question is we don't necessarily know what all their income scenarios are in that when they submitted that. So let's just assuming
they're just heavily invested in the market, which a lot of people are. That's why 1 to 2 years of savings for that crash is important. Now, there's a couple of ways to do that. You can put it in a relatively a portfolio that's built to not be as volatile as the rest of the world's portfolios are. Put a section of money in there. You can do the bank CDs and stuff, but you're going to pay more taxes. But there is ways to do that. But the number you're looking for is so I didn't have to sell anything and I didn't have to starve. How much would I need in the next 1 or 2 years?
I think that to look at that question a little bit differently, there are several ways to invest. You can be completely market driven, which means you're going to have, hopefully, if it's done correctly for you, you're going to have a bucket system in place where you've got your 5-year money.
Yep.
You've got your midterm, which may be 5 to 10 year money, and then you've got your long-term money, all 3 different buckets. And we won't dive into what that needs to look like internally. The second option is you've got products that you've purchased. And I'm not saying that these are all bad, but from the planning perspective, where people tend to go wrong with these products is they say, okay, I'm going to take $500,000 and I know I need an additional, whatever the number is, we'll call it $7,000 a month. Yeah, that's not going to do it. We'll say $1,000 a month. I need an extra $1,000 a month to survive right now. So they take a humongous amount of their assets and they buy a product that kicks off an income stream. And what the question, it's all backwards. They fail to ask, how much am I going to need in the future?
Yep.
And they don't really see this coming because we call this the silent destroyer of assets.
Yep.
But the horrific inflation costs destroy these types of product income plans. And so your plan needs to not look at how much money do you need today to survive. It needs to be how much money do I need when I am 80 or 85 to still be surviving.
Every product sold in the 80s and into the 90s performed very poorly compared to the illustration that they like to give up because the interest rates were historically low. And no matter what they're doing, if they're not moving, you're not making money. So when interest rates are not jumping around, you're not making any money. And that's a very complicated thought, but it would probably take another show to dive into.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Should I begin converting traditional IRA or 401k money to a Roth before required minimum distributions begin? And how much should I convert without creating unnecessary taxes or higher Medicare premiums?
Hey, that's a solid maybe, isn't it?
Oh my goodness. So here's the reality. When you're talking about those Medicare premiums, you're talking about IRMAA. And the IRMAA calculation is based off of what is your income amount for the year. So when you're doing huge Roth conversions, you need to consider what IRMAA is going to look like. And if you don't know how to calculate that, you need to call us so we can run the analysis and actually show you for your specific unique scenario what that's going to look like for you. Because it's not uncommon to see your annual IRMAA number just go sky high and people are completely unprepared for it.
Yeah. Aunt Irma, we call her.
Aunt Irma.
And she's not a nice lady.
She's not nice. Uncle Sam doesn't even like her, I don't think. Okay, but the main question is, should you do the conversions? I have seen people's assets, when done correctly, I have seen the asset level when they're age 75,
The
more
net
than
assets.
the net assets, more than double.
Mm-hmm.
Just the net number, more than double when you do Roth conversions correctly.
Right.
But in reality, the plan needs to start when you're 60, maybe even a little before that, but there's some caveats to that. When you're 60 years old, that's the sweet spot for Roth conversions.
100%.
And you need to understand what your jump rate is. And what I mean by jump rate is where are you at tax bracket right now? If you're in 20% and your jump rate is 2%, right? How much money is it going to take before you jump to 22%? Right. You need to know what that number is. And if you're cool with that, jump it. Go on up. Yeah. It all depends on how much money in qualified cash you have.
Yep.
And Roth conversions, I think that they might be one of the biggest planning tools that people never get around to doing.
Right. And unfortunately, there's a lot of advisors out there that sell the Roth conversions as the end all, but they are not for everybody.
Right.
They are definitely not for everybody.
Definitely not.
And just like any other part of planning, there is no one shoe that fits everybody's Cinderella's foot. You know, it's individuals.
Mm-hmm. Next question. Now that the windfall elimination provision and government pension offset have been repealed, should PERA members recalculate their Social Security, spousal, survival, and retirement income strategies?
Well, you always should be reevaluating and recalculating because life changes, but no. So when you pulled up 5 years ago, your estimated benefit from Social Security, and you were working for the state and were subject to windfall, that was not calculated in there. So right after the windfall elimination program went away, through the Fairness Act, when you log into the website, it didn't change the numbers because the IRS didn't try to calculate that. So no, you don't have to recalculate it. Look at it. If you have a shock in there and you don't understand, come see me, because believe it or not, the IRS does make mistakes. Mm-hmm. I saw it with myself. They missed an entire year of earnings in my Social Security calculations.
How many people can actually catch that though?
Well, you have to look, and
Wow.
I've caught it with myself once and 2 clients.
You're kidding me.
No.
Oh
No,
my
you have to
goodness.
look at it year by year and go, "Did you work in 2008?"
Oh, it just had zeros in
Had
there.
zeros in it. Yeah, even though I had a tax return, and I still had the old tax return, so I was able to prove it and get it reinstated. But yeah, it was 2003 for me. But yeah, it absolutely they messed up. They missed
Wow.
it. So yeah, there's things to look for. But should you be reevaluating your Social Security? Sure, because you've probably been working this whole time and it's higher than you thought. You should always be looking at it. But the windfall elimination program, when it went away, it only benefited federally and state publicly owned pensioners. Okay, so there's a relatively small number of those that are affected, but it's only in a good way. So if it said $2,000 a month, the check that you would have gotten prior to this was $1,000 a month in a lot of cases. So you're going to get what's on the paper.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Eligible PERA retirees are receiving a 1% annual increase in July, but inflation has been running at approximately 3.5%. How much additional income and investment growth will I need to protect my purchasing power?
Right. And that is the problem with one of the problems with the PERA system is that it is an automatic 1% per year. And I say automatic, but there has been terrible budget years when they didn't give it out. But there's also periodically they will vote in a raise for PERA. So it takes little jumps. Unfortunately, it's always well behind the inflation rate. But with a PERA retirement, which I am a PERA retiree, your dollar is not going to stretch as far in 20 years as it does today, because the average is 1% per year. Well, not the average, but the automatic is 1%. And unless the state is feeling generous and people voted in, you're not going to make even up to real low inflation. So yeah, your purchasing power is going to go down to the tune of about 1 to 3% per year on average. So yeah, you do need to have some investments that you can pull 4% out of to make up for that.
Got it.
And I can't give you an exact number because everybody's dollar amounts are different.
Last question. And this is the last PERA question too.
All right.
PERA reports that its defined benefit trust funds are approximately 69.1% funded. Should I be worried about the security of my pension? And what should I personally do instead of reacting emotionally to that number?
So, in my not so humble opinion, and being a PERA retiree, and eventually I'll be a Social Security recipient, anytime the government's involved in your pension, you should probably be somewhat concerned, but understand how these are built. So these are absolutely balanced on the backs of the people that are still working. So for you PERA retirees or current PERA contributors, I'm under the rule of 80. You've probably heard of that. So when my age and years in service equaled 80, I got my full retirement. And it went up after that for every year I wanted to stay. So now, not too long ago, they came out with a rule of 95. So your age plus time in had to equal 95 before you got your full retirement. So they were paying current retirees based on the current employees. Now, no matter how long you work, as I understand it, as of today, you cannot make more than 50% of your highest average salary per year. Doesn't matter how many years you work, past 30 years.
Wow.
So 50%. So you're taking a 50% pay cut right off the bat. So for those of us that are retired or are locked into a rule of year like myself, it's not going to be real scary for us. What should scare people, same thing with Social Security, is the youngsters that are just paying into it now. How is that going to change until you're locked in and grandfathered into a system?
Yikes.
Social Security is the same way. The president is never going to sign off on taking grandma's pension away from Social Security. It was his party. He won't get reelected. His party won't get reelected, and he'll be the devil for forever. It's the same thing with the governor of Colorado in the PERA system. He's not going to sign off on letting that go bankrupt. So there is a specialized group that keeps this partially funded.
Got it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions about PERA or any other government benefit, such as how do I trigger this to be the most effective income stream for me and my family, Caleb is our right-hand man when it comes to these types of questions. I highly encourage you to reach out, give him a phone call, 719-434-3939. You can also go to the website, cowboysandcufflinks.com, and submit your question directly to Caleb, and he will get you fixed up.